Hey guys, Shadylikeatree here, and welcome into my Murdered Soul Suspect review that I've got for you guys. I want to talk about a lot of things with this game, but the first thing I wanted to address is this game worth buying? I'm going to say yes, it is. For me, this game is really fun. I had a really hard time being able to put it down. You know, Watch Dogs came out a few days before, and I really just kind of didn't even play it. Because this came out and I didn't have a time to play both, so I just chose to play this, and I stuck with it. I have finished the game. There's going to be spoiler-free until at some point I deem there to be no more things to say that I can't spoil. But between now and then, it will be spoiler-free, so there will be a big warning, and you'll be able to tell when that is, and it'll be blatantly obvious. So I wanted to kind of show you the first part of the game. This is the very first crime scene, and you will also see the very second crime scene and how you get from the first crime scene to the second crime scene. This game is a lot of fun. I'm going to give it probably a 7.8 out of 10. There are a lot of, I'll use the word issues with the game. There are a lot of things that, just weren't executed very well, especially for it being, a PlayStation 4 generation game. A lot of the people are very static and they don't move a lot, and there's not a whole lot of facial expression. Like, these guys, their faces don't change. Their mouths moves, but their faces don't change. And, they would be expressing a wide range of, I think, emotion, and not just moving their mouths here. Their eyes would be moving a little bit more, things of that sort. But you do see them blink, which is good, I guess. But for the most part, one of my chief complaints is that this game didn't look as good as it could have. There's a lot of very static environments. A lot of the people, they don't move. The environment doesn't change. And I feel like that could have been a little bit better. And that's one of the things that a lot of people have been saying about this game. And so just to kind of give you a point of view, one of my favorite quotes, I think, that I've seen on this game, it comes from the GameStop review, I believe, of the game, and it's that even though it wears its many faults so openly, Murdered Soul Suspect manages to demand your attention until the chilling end. And that is pretty much a perfect way to talk about this game, is that it demands your attention until the end. It's well written, the story is really fun, really good. I couldn't be happier with it, but at the same time, it's just got a lot of things that aren't perfect, and that really kind of detracts from the experience of the game as a whole. And it's very much like, I'm kind of combining several games. It's very much like Beyond Two Souls, LA Noire kind of in a way, Beyond Two Souls in a way, it kind of combined. And it's got the supernatural element to it, which I think is different. I think this game, I can't point to a single game out there on the market and say, this game is exactly like blank. You can say Call of Duty and Battlefield are very similar. You can say that Call of Duty X is the same as Call of Duty whatever with this feature, but you can't say this is LA Noire with. It's completely different. Yes, it's a detective game and it's a police game, but it's so very different. You can't say that this is LA Noire on its own with added even 1, 2, or 3 elements, because it's very different. As a whole, I think it took me a total of 8 hours to play this game. You kind of go around and you just kind of learn from people. You can possess them. You can kind of change their thoughts. And right here was a cool little thing where the cop shivers when you walk through him. You can kind of see all of that. Without spoiling too much, kind of the main bad guy that you have to worry about through this, which kind of puts you on nerve a little bit right here, are demons. And you saw a little bit of the demon right there, but now he's gone. We'll run into him a couple times here throughout the rest of this gameplay, once we get up to the first crime scene, but or once we get up to the second crime scene. But this game just doesn't it doesn't do anything exceptionally well. It does a lot of things, it tries a lot of new things, and it improves upon elements as you go, but it doesn't knock anything. Nothing is really knocked out of the park except maybe for the story. I think the story is one of the better written stories of any video game I've played recently. I would put it on par with games like the most recent Uncharted. I would put it on par with BioShock Infinite. It kept you on your toes. It kept you interested. When you thought you knew who the bad guy was, you weren't sure. And I had that internal guessing game going the whole time, and I was completely blown away by the ending. No spoilers. There are a lot of people you can interact with in the game. There are some people like this where you can just kind of read their mind and kind of listen to how they interact with each other. You can kind of spy on people like that. But then there are also these little side mini missions that you can go on, and you can kind of showcase your abilities as a detective to really quickly help someone move on. And the premise of this game is you play a detective who's been killed by a serial killer, and you are to try to figure out how to solve your own murder so you can move on from the sort of netherworld or the world you're currently in, which is sort of an in-between world, as you'll see more and more. It's not really the afterlife or the present life that you and I are speaking or that are in, but it's kind of an in-between world, and there's a lot more danger and not a lot of happiness to it. And so you have to move on to be with your deceased wife, and so you kind of parade around, and right here too, these are some of these things I'm uncovering. Those are also side missions. I actually started a new playthrough, so I knew where all of them were. It was just a matter of getting to them. But all these side missions are pretty fun. They're pretty quick too. There was one I got stuck on. It was the one involving the gas station. I got stuck on a little bit, but with some help from the internet, I was able to figure it out fairly quickly, and kind of just learn it and understand it. So I guess something else I haven't talked about yet is just you can interact with the living, you can interact with the dead, and then right here you'll see me interact with another guy who's kind of stalking a living person. And I asked a different question this time than I asked before, and I found out some additional stuff that I didn't find out the first time. So I think this is all I have for the spoiler-free. Oh, I didn't talk about the gameplay. The gameplay is good, and I say that with a caveat that there are some issues at times where you have to get, like, you have to be, it's sort of clunky. Some of the controls don't necessarily work perfectly. Like, if you want to, like, investigate a clue, sometimes you have to be, like, right up on it to, like, be able to investigate it. And this is one of those. There's sometimes you have to, like, see something on the wall, and you have to, like, be just so. You have to be just perfect to be able to investigate the clue. And once you've done that, then you can see the clue. But it's just so difficult sometimes. I ran into that a handful of times. Also there's there's sort of a lack of intuitiveness in this game. And then right here we're gonna face a demon for the first time, kind of in combat, as I do air quotes about the combat part of it. You kind of see what they're like and how they kind of behave. They weren't too difficult singularly, but in numbers they grew exponentially more difficult because you have to sneak up on them. And sneaking up on one is so much significantly more easier than sneaking up on, say, 3, 4, or 5 like you do towards the end of the game. But it's just more difficult like that, and so you kind of have to hide, and like right here, I'll hide in this little ghost poof, and try to get away from them. But more on the gameplay, it was good. It wasn't as good as it could have been, and which is why I give it a 7.9. The gameplay is what brings it kind of back, and what makes it lag, and what makes it not as fulfilling of an experience, and that's what holds it back. So ultimately, if they were to do a Murdered Soul Suspect 2, or to do a similar version of this game, I would want the gameplay to be better. I would want the gameplay to kind of mimic how good the story is and kind of help the story out. I would like to see them do more elements. In the game, you do get to play as a cat, which is kind of a cool element that I don't think many other games like this would have tried to take on. But at the end of the day, it's a fun experience, and as I said before, once you get started, you really can't put it down. And then right here, you'll see me execute or take down a demon, and you just have to do the 2 simple controls. By the way, you are watching this. This is full 1080p from the PlayStation. So this is, I think, as good a quality as you can get. It is in 60 FPS, although I'm sure on YouTube it gets downscaled to 30, so it probably would look better in the raw file. But again, here's two demons, and you'll watch me kind of just take them out as I please. I think I run into a slight issue here, but again, I guess we're gonna move along here, and because I wanted to talk a little bit about the story, so I'm gonna hit your spoiler warning, and then I'll see you on the other side.
Spoiler warning. Everything will be told. Everything.
All right, I'm now back, and so here's all the spoilers that you're gonna get. You're gonna get to enjoy everything. If you haven't played the game, you should click off now if that wasn't blatantly obvious. But if you have and you want to talk about it some, let's get right into it. So, the story. I thought it started off a little bit slow. Well, after that initial scene where you're pushed out of the window and you kind of do the first crime scene, I thought it was slow for a little while. Kind of right after that, up until you get to the cemetery. I thought it wasn't boring, it was just slow, and it was just a lot of walking and trying to figure out and trying to maneuver and kind of struggling to learn and understand things. But man, once you get past that, it really picks up, and it really threw me for a loop. I never in a million years, actually, I was discussing with my girlfriend about this, and I kind of had an idea. I thought it might be Ronan, I thought it might be Baxter, I thought it might be Rex. I definitely thought there was a spirit controlling someone, because every time you see somebody get pushed or shoved, it seems like they get their push or their shove with some like extra strength. So I definitely 100% was on board the, oh my, there's some definite kind of otherworldly spirits that are involved and are at play here. But I didn't think that it would be all three of them. I didn't think that the bell killer would be all three of them. I thought it might be someone possessed by a spirit, but I didn't think it would be Ronan, who had killed the one girl that you help, and I didn't think that it would be Baxter, who would be part of it, and I didn't think that it would be Rex, who kills you. I thought it might be Rex, but I didn't think it would be all three, and that was kind of really, I'll use the word interesting and different. I hadn't really heard of that before, where kind of everyone is involved, and I did like how it was kind of resolved that Joy helped Rex kind of cover up his tracks and stay off, because he had, he really didn't do it. While it was his physical presence that did it, he really didn't do it. Which is kind of something that, in this life that we have no proof of, and we can't say, and he would have gone to jail had they discovered what had happened. I did like all of the like little cut scenes and being able to help the person, like at the gas station, and being able to do the cemetery, and kind of helping her and kind of figuring out her death and the body floating downriver and finding everything. I thought it was intense, very much so, especially whenever the demons were involved. There were a lot of scenes where I'm just like, I can't handle this. It was very much, I need a break, I need to take a minute. And right before any time I had to deal with demons, I took a break and kind of stepped away, because it was just really intense, and then I proceeded to methodically just take them out and kill them all. So that was something I liked. I didn't really care for the dialogue. It seemed to me like there was nothing really beneficial for, possessing the average person who was walking around in this world. That you heard a line about their life, but you didn't really get anything. You didn't get any added information. It would have been nice if, instead of the newspaper clippings and instead of the the diaries or whatever, if you would have actually been able to get information about the Bell Killer from the people in the world, and learned about them. Because finding the newspaper clippings and the journals and the poems and all of that sort of thing was fine. I think it would have been better to learn it from people and just kind of piece it together in your own mind more slowly than having these big, long informational arcs kind of dropped upon you as things progress throughout the game. So that was kind of also an issue I took with the game. The scene at the hospital was a little intense for me as well when I forget her name. It wasn't Iris, was it? When the girl who was possessed by her sister was kind of thrashing about, and that whole bit was just unnerving for me, and it was incredibly difficult to kind of feel my way through that part and kind of make it through the end, so to speak. And I just wasn't ready for that, and so you kind of just had to relax and make it through. I did like the museum exhibit where they had all the ways that the witches had kind of died, and how they tied that to the story about how the old days of the Puritan days when Salem, for those of you who don't know, Salem, Massachusetts is famous in American history for the Salem witch trials, in which they believe that many of the residents practiced witchcraft, and the only way that they could prove their innocence was to die, basically. So they said that they would set up these torture ways where they would drown you, or they would hang you, or they would put rocks on your chest, and they say, well, if you're really not a witch, if you're a witch, you can leave and you can get out of here, but if you're not a witch, you're gonna die. And it doesn't make any logical sense to me, but basically everyone died because no one was a witch. So they killed, I forget how many people it was. I think it was like, it might have been like 10 or 15 people, I think. But people were being accused of being a witch, left, right, center, and it was odd. It was an odd time in American history, and people were paranoid. They were scared, as people are, and so a bunch of people died, and it's just kind of famous. And they stoned them, they drowned them, they did a number of just bad things to these people who didn't really deserve it. And a lot of the times these accusations were brought about because someone felt they had been wronged, whether or not they actually had been. And there was a lot of just kind of people just doing that just out of spite and out of a certain level of hatred for the other people, and that was like, being called a witch was worse than anything you could ever be called today, because you'd be killed for it, and there was no judge, there was no jury, there was no trial. There was, you've been accused of a witch, how do you plead? Not guilty. Okay, well, we'll prove it. And then they would proceed to either put a big board with some rocks on your chest and squish you to death, or they would drown you, or they would hang you, or they would burn you at the stake, or they would do a number of things. And I remember specifically there was one case, and I forget the people whose names involved, but one woman was saved by another woman who knocked her off the bull, and then they accused them both of being witched, and they burned them both alive at the stake right after that. So they killed so many people, and it was just a paranoid time in life. People were afraid of witchcraft. I really forget how it ended, but I just think that nobody ever really saw, everyone was sort of being accused of witchcraft, and it got to the point where, well, we can't kill everyone, can we? And so that's kind of what happened, and everyone who was a medium, and in this game, as you may remember, the people who were being killed were young women who were, thought to be mediums for the most part, or thought to possess some ability. Joy and her mother were two of the targets, because they were getting too close, and then the other people, as it's shown at the end, which was sort of interesting, it was that little Puritan girl who had died because she had accused people of being a witch, and how her fear kind of came back and killed more people than it did in Puritan times. And that was sort of what was interesting to me. But it was really a feel-good moment, and for me, when she dies, when she moved on, it was like, okay, well, now we know that we don't have to worry about her anymore. I would have liked the ending to be a little bit more involved. It seems like you're in the basement of the judge's house. I forget what they called that house. And you go back to the museum, and it seems like you really only have to do two things when you get back to the museum. You have to find them, then you have to possess what's-her-name, and you have to shout at him, or shout at Rex, and then you possess the little girl, or you touch the little girl, or you do I forget what you do to the little girl, but you do something to her, and then that's basically it. It's a cinematic cutscene until it ends, and I would have liked a little bit more on that end. I think that there wasn't enough there for me, but at the end of the day, I thought it ended nicely, and I would have also liked, at the end you hear Ronan's wife, say his name, and you assume that he's coming on, but I would have liked to have actually visualized him turning around, she being there, reaching out her hand, him grabbing onto her hand, and her kind of pulling him into heaven or wherever he would have gone, whatever mythical place that would have been. I would have liked to have actually seen that for a story element to just kind of be like, okay, this for sure happens. Now, on the flip side of that, if that is not the case, and in fact there's a sequel and Ronan stars in the sequel, I think that will be rather intense to kind of witness that and kind of experience that story in the next game. If there is a next game, who knows? This could be a one and done like LA Noire was. It was fun, but as I said before, a lot of things weren't executed. So that's about all I've got to say today. I finished up the case here. We've got it. We know where we need to go now. We need to go to the church. So we're going to go to the church, and that's kind of the next part of the story. So if you guys have stuck around this long, I thank you for watching my review. I know I've gone probably a little bit longer than maybe I should have, but I certainly got around to everything I think I wanted to talk about. So have a good time. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.
Out the window. Gunned me down in the street, and you didn't even check for witnesses? Like you're untouchable. That girl is my only lead. I need to find her.